Hello, and welcome to Mama Says. I'm your host, Amber Autry, and this week I talked to Evan and Linda Hull. Evan is a fellow comedian and a great writer. I love watching him perform. And his mom, Linda, is an accomplished writer as well, with 9 published novels under her belt. It's amazing. From the jump, we have a very open, hilarious conversation. We talk about the adoption process, having healthy expectations for your kids, and Linda gives great, down to earth advice. It's such a good conversation. I'm so excited for you to meet Linda and Evan, so get cozy and enjoy this episode of Mama Says.
This is my mom. I think you
Hi.
figured that out.
Who is this person?
Actually, Evan, is this a good time to tell you that I'm not your mother?
Actually, it's a perfect time.
That's fun. I always knew my mom was black.
Dad was cheating on me, and I'm not your mother, but I raised you anyway.
Well, it's crazy that the other woman delivered me then and then just gave me off.
Yeah, people do that, Evan. It's called adoption.
You didn't see what you looked like when you were born.
No, that's never happened before.
You see. There we go. There we go.
You're still an L.
Well, okay, hold on.
Nope.
Is?
There it is.
There we go. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Hopefully my computer will stay. I don't know. After all the work we've done to upgrade our internet, sometimes we have moments. So if we have
Same.
No worries. I can edit whatever out.
Okay.
Really all I needed, I know that Linda, you had hit me up before and be like, I want to tell Evan about that, like I'm not his mom. So really we got what we need.
So we're done.
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. I think it went well.
Are you shocked that the big reveal really didn't hit me that hard? It's kind of like,
I'm not
hey,
sure
whatever.
I'm more
You know
shocked
what?
that you
It's
hadn't
cool.
heard of adoption. Like,
A what?
Particularly since his younger sister is adopted, but
Yeah.
whatever.
oh, really?
It didn't even
Yeah,
occur to him
she's
that she was
Chinese.
biological, even though we went and got her.
Yeah.
What?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How old were you?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I was 9. No, I was 9.
8. You were
She was 1, and I'm 8.5 years older than her, so I was 9.5.
9.
Oh my gosh. That's so amazing. What
Yeah.
was going through your head? You were just excited to have a sister?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like, well, at that point, it had been like a year and a half of like process because there's so much like that goes into that with social workers and paperwork and all that. And so I guess I don't know. I don't remember. It's just I got to go to China. I think I thought it was cool that I got to go to China when I was like in 4th grade and I left for 2 weeks and everyone was like, he's in China. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was really cool that there was like a tension there.
The best part of the whole experience, the beforehand experience, we had to do all this paperwork and we had to go do all the social workers came to the house and different stuff, but we had to go to parenting classes. And so we came home from parenting classes to the boys and we're like, we've got some good news and some bad news. We've been doing this whole thing wrong and we're going to rethink it now. So it's kind of funny to have to go to parenting classes after you've been a parent.
The other crazy thing is that one of those social workers molested me.
Yeah, well, that can happen. Actually, what that social worker
That was a
did,
joke, Amber.
Oh,
It wasn't. I guess the rapport is not clear. I'm really sorry.
what happened with the social worker was that she came to our house and she took one look around and she's like, oh, who did your kitchen? And she like tucked her feet up under her, she sat on the couch, tucked her feet up under her butt and asked me questions about the house. And I'm like, don't you want to know about my parenting?
No, that's exactly what she was doing, though. I think she was like sussing you out hard with that.
No, she's like, I can see that things are fine around here,
Oh, yeah.
basically. And she really didn't. I was like, sometimes I get mad at the kids and I yell at them. She's like,
great.
this is
Yeah,
a great couch.
They also like, I remember they would take us up to our rooms and like close the door and we would be in the room with them. And that's obviously something that you're like, we knew we were like privy to it because we understood what a social worker was. and we understood that like if they're telling us, if this woman's been let into our house and they're saying it's okay, then it's probably okay. But it's an interesting dynamic because they have to like get a private interview with the kid basically to make sure there's no red flags.
Yeah, what were the questions like for you, Evan?
I don't really remember, but I think they were pretty overt. Like they
Like,
were literally
who's your
like,
mother's designer for the kitchen.
exactly. They were pretty overt. I mean, they were pretty much like, do they hit you? Do they, you know what I mean? And like some of them, I really don't remember, but I don't remember being that shocked by them. You know what I mean? Like like I said, we knew what she was there for.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was. I think some of them were a little bit more like, how's school going? Like, where do you like to do your homework? Like, do you close yourself in your room when you come home, or do you sit in the, you know what I mean? Like a little bit trying to like suss out what the dynamic between us and our parents were.
Uh-huh. Right.
But I think most of them were pretty, like, it was really just lifestyle questions. Like what, like, you know, if it was like, oh yeah, I come home from school every single night and I close my door and I lock it until morning. Like we're gonna, you know, that's what they're trying to sort of figure out.
Right. So Linda, you already had 2 biological sons, right? And what made you want to adopt?
I think we sort of had decided that before we ever got married that we'd adopt our last kid, however that happened. And because Brandon's Evan's biological father, he's actually your biological father. I'm going to tell you the truth now. You aren't the mailman's kid, like I've been telling you. His father's adopted, and one of his brothers is adopted, and my sister's husband is adopted, and we just thought it would be a cool tradition to keep going, to not have all of your children be biological.
That is awesome. So you went to parent classes, and I know you were joking about it, but were there things in parent classes that you learned that you did you're like, no.
The only thing that was valuable about them, and turned out not to be the case, is when you are adopting a kid, that's been in an orphanage, there's some potential for attachment issues, or issues that are going to come up later, that it just alerted me to some of that stuff. But she didn't have any attachment issues, and any adoption issues we've dealt with, as they've happened.
I mean, there's standard ones, just being like, they sort of grow up into understanding that adoption means that their parents couldn't keep them for whatever reason.
Stuff
and that'll fuck you up to some degree.
Yeah. And work through that stuff. But yeah.
So Linda, when you're not being a hilarious, awesome mom, what occupies your time?
I'm a writer. Does Evan told you anything about me at all?
He more so talked about his actual mom. No, he did. He mentioned that you're a writer, and he actually suggested a book of yours to read, but I tried to find it in the library and I couldn't find it. So tell me about your writing.
Yeah, which one did you suggest, Evan?
Probably Drowning with Others.
Yeah, well, I do write that under a pen name. So maybe if you looked up Hull, that's why you didn't find it. But I have 9 published novels under my name, Linda Jaffe Hull, and with a co-writer named Keir Graff under the name Linda Keir.
Who is in Chicago, by the way?
Lives in Chicago. So who I see when I get to come to Chicago. And so we've written 3 novels together. Drowning with Others was optioned for TV. It hasn't been, everything's shut down, but we'll see if it ever becomes a TV show, which would be cool. And yeah. So I write mystery. I write. I would say contemporary novels. Would you, Evan? How would you describe it? Some of them are considered thrillers. A lot of them are about marital and domestic issues, and they are sometimes funny and sometimes not as funny. Just depends on what we're working on. The newest book is called 3 Mrs. Rights. This
is awesome. Did you always know you wanted to be a writer?
I hate writing. Actually, hang on. I'll show you. This is my newest book, The 3 Mrs. Rights. Can you see it?
Oh, I love it. Girl, you legit.
Yeah, I'm legit. I get like reviews and everything. I'm a real writer. Yeah. And I don't publish them myself or anything. Some of the old ones, actually, that's not true. Some of my old books
That's
went
I
the right
feel
back.
like that's a stigma within writers that like self-publish or like older generation of writers. Because I have a ton of friends, I know a ton of people who have self-published, but I also understand the sort of like credentials of like, or I guess lack thereof of self-publishing, and why within the community it can be seen as a little bit, I guess like
It
cheap and
depends.
hacky.
Some people have self-published, made millions of dollars, been really successful. In general, nothing happens when you self-publish a book. Your 5 friends read it, and that's the end of it. So it's not.
Because there's no marketing.
There's no way to market because you can't get it out
Right.
where it needs to go. That said, I'm what's called a hybrid author now, and that I've gotten the rights back to 5 of my books, and so I had them re-edited, did new covers, and put them out myself. So it just depends. I think that a mixture of things is what propels you along. If you can get a publishing deal that you're not paying for the whole process of putting your book out, it makes it seem more legitimate. But with nonfiction, that's not necessarily the case, because there are people that can sell a lot of books. And if you have a professional editor and a professional cover done and all that stuff, it can be just as good.
I mean, I think to some degree it's the same with. I mean, comedy is obviously a little bit easier to put out into the world because you can just film it and put it out. But if it still falls into the category of like, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
And writing too, but it's just, can you find that audience?
Yeah,
You can put
it's
out
a lot harder with
needs it. Yeah.
physical books.
So
Do you feel like when you when you were not self-published, when you got picked up, that they stuck true to your wishes for the most part? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
That's an interesting question, because your wishes and your judgment about what should be in your book, other people, you have to be able to take criticism. I know as a comedian, you do that too, where other people are looking it over and improving it. So the question is, yes, I feel like nothing that I've put out has changed substantially from what my vision was for the book, but I do a lot of planning and plotting and figuring things out before I write them, and they tend to turn out pretty much how I want them. That said, once an editor gets in there, they often, I try very hard to be open-minded about whether what they're saying is going to make my book better, stronger, and more interesting to other people. And so I'm always open to editorial review.
And you said that you said that you hate writing. Was that a joke, or is it?
No, it's hard for me. It's what I do, and I feel compelled to do it. It's not. I used to take classes in college. I have a degree in economics. I used to take classes that didn't allow me
Which
to write.
is hilarious the more
I
you
know, I
get to
can't
know
do
her.
That's a whole nother problem. But I wanted to be an English major. But writing, to me, if it's done well, it takes some real effort. It doesn't just flow. Thinking flows, plotting flows. I'm good at looking at a book and coming up with overarching editorial plot ideas, but actually writing it can be tough for me. I do it. I mean,
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool that like I feel like a lot of people would be like, now I have a great idea for a book, and then just never write it, and they tell somebody else like, you know what you should write, but you like powered through that and just did the writing even though it was hard. That's
I mean, how often do people say to you, I should do stand up, I'm the funny one in the friend group?
I literally could choke so many
It
people.
makes me want to die. Yeah, but it's very similar when people say that, and then they're like, well, here's a funny thing, why don't you put that in? And you're like,
And
well, that's there because that's not how this works. So it's really the same.
we get that.
1,000%.
You should write about me. My story's interesting. Or they say, I have a great idea. You write it and we'll share the profits. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. That sounds
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Or you should put that in your book. Here's something funny. You should put that in your book. And I'm like, okay, why don't I rewrite my book so that we can put
Because that makes no sense plot wise.
that not funny thing you just told me.
I
Yeah.
feel like I already know the answer to this, but has there ever been a time where someone's told you their story and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't even know if I should tell this story, but in my first published novel, my uncle, who's been married, he's been married a few times, but his second wife, who I really like, there was a rumor, and I don't even know if it's true, but she was so, he'd made her so crazy, you know, in their relationship. And I'm not putting
Which, yeah,
I'm not putting any judgment on this. That can happen in relationships. She supposedly hated him so much that she wanted him to die, and she dipped his toothbrush in the toilet. And
which will really do it.
well, she was just angry, and you know, like I totally get it. And she just did that thinking maybe he'd get hepatitis and die. Like she was just pissed. And then they got a divorce, and she got happily remarried. He got remarried. I mean, everything's fine, and like I love both of them. And so when I wrote my first novel, well, the first novel that came out, I had a scene where a character, I like desperately wanted to write that into a book. And so I put it in. I put a character hating her husband so much she dipped his toothbrush in the toilet. And I put it in there. And then that ex-aunt came to my book signing and said, "Oh, I've been reading your book." And it occurred to me right at that moment. I was like, "Oh my God, how far are you in?" And she's like, "Oh, 60 pages." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Knowing that we both, I still don't know if it's really true. I mean, because she didn't say you wrote that thing about me, but I love her more for it. So it doesn't, it's irrelevant, you know.
So this accusation wasn't just like something he like mentioned in passing. This was like came up in court where he's like, she tried to kill me.
No. My mother told me, or someone told me, and I just don't know if it's true or not. I never asked anyone. I just loved it so much that I wanted to write it into a book. And so I had to work a character. I had to like develop a character to go into a book that would do that. And so, yes, I've done it, but not usually.
But there's also, I mean, because your side hustle would be ghostwriting.
Yeah.
And so there are people's stories, because then it's like, oh, you should write about my story. And it's like, great, well, we can do that. But that's an actual career thing that like, I will ghostwrite a story for you, but you have to
pay me.
Yeah. Oh no, I have a book's coming out tomorrow that I ghost wrote that's fantastic. It's called Center of Attention. And the author's name is Jamie Brown Martin, and her brother's on the FBI most wanted list. And wow. It's an amazing story, and it's been so much fun, and she and I have become really close. So yeah, I mean, I'll write people's stories. And
what does it mean to ghost write?
It's her story, but I helped her with the writing of it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's writing the whole thing. I wrote a lot of this, but it's her story. It's not my story.
So she's still written as the author, put as the author.
Yeah, it's up to them. If they want my name on it, I can sometimes do that. But normally I don't think of it as my story.
Just the logistics of the actual writing of it.
And helping her get it published and that stuff.
Do you prefer that to writing your own books?
Yeah. It's different. I write fiction. I do nonfiction ghostwriting projects.
Okay.
That's why I got an A on most of my papers in college. I mean, again, semi-joking.
No, I
didn't. At first, I helped him a lot, and then he learned how to write. My older son never learned how to write, and my help didn't do any good. And my daughter won't let me help her, and she's now
she will eventually.
She's realizing that it might be of value for the GPA.
Well, there were just so much, like, when you're so mired, and you know this, when you're so mired in your own writing, like there's so much that you miss, even if it's a good piece. There's so much that you miss, and that's the same with jokes. It's the same with essays. It's anything.
And when you asked about is my vision still there with book, I want to hear what an editor has to say, because I want to hear what I missed. Because as someone told me a long time ago, although it's not true in my case, you can't be in bed next to the person reading your book and telling them, oh, what I meant was, oh, no. What I meant was, here's what I wanted in that scene. Now, my husband does read my books, and so sometimes that has happened. But particularly when he read the book about swingers that I wrote with Keir, because I wrote a book about swingers. I'm not a swinger. Evan, is this a good time to tell you?
I don't care. You know what? I have said this before. I don't care what you do. I really don't. Just don't tell me about it. Like, just be happy, and I don't give a shit.
Don't go to that one channel on Pornhub.
I don't stop it. I don't care. I just don't want to hear about it.
And swingers.
No, stop. Just whatever it is, I don't care. Just don't flag it for me. Don't bring it into my understanding, and we don't have to ever. I don't care.
No,
totally a joke. Of
course,
I know that.
We're not swingers. All right.
We're way too germ phobic in this family.
No, thank you. Plus, if you know Evan, I'm just like him. The pickiness alone would be like, I can't, no.
Yeah.
So
you're an author. Evan is a comedian. Is your whole family in the arts?
sort of. My parents are artists, like visual
Yeah.
artists. So all the art in our house is
Our
original.
immediate family split, but the extended is pretty, yeah.
The old Evan's older brother Andrew is a science medicine kind. You know, he's working his way towards medical school, and he's in getting his master's in a scientific thing. And then my husband's a lawyer, and I wouldn't say he's creative. He's athletic, so that's where the athletic. Both Andrew and
Yeah.
Evan and Eliza are all really athletic. So, well, Evan gets his non-athleticism from me. He's
I'm not unathletic, but I was always like the worst of the best. You know what I mean?
He's the worst collegiate athlete. Like
I made it to the Big Ten, but I took last every time. So it was still pretty impressive, but not but I was up against like Olympians, but like I took last.
That's still pretty dope.
Yeah. And he looks good in a Speedo.
I feel like that's probably the best compliment you could get from your mom.
To be clear, I was a diver. I think you knew that, but
yeah.
Okay,
he
cool.
had to wear a Speedo, to be
Yeah.
clear, because none of us are real fans of the actual Speedo. No one is.
No, but that's the uniform.
Right.
It was always awkward taking people to watch you guys dive. Like, here's my kid in his sports uniform.
Yeah, here's my kid's asshole. It's flying through the air.
With other Olympic assholes.
Yeah, exactly. With really good looking assholes.
So what was Evan like as a kid? Did you always know he was going to be a comic?
Evan as a kid, let me just give you the overarching Evan as a kid. Evan, for the first 18 months of his life, he really didn't speak that much. He made this noise that was something like this a lot. And we came to the conclusion that our first kid was probably gifted, and our second kid, well, he was going to take longer to get his act together, and we would just love him anyway. And he was 18 months old, and we were driving down the street. I was in the front seat of the car. He was in his car seat, and my other son was next to him, who I guess if Evan was 18 months, he was almost 4, Andrew. And the car, I had to stop suddenly, and I had not belted the car seat in properly for some reason, which isn't like me. But so
which they had to relearn in parenting class, by the way.
So we're driving down the street. I stop suddenly. His car seat kind of flies forward and hits the front of the back seat, the back of the front seat. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I pull over and I'm like, Evan, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I push the car seat back. Are you okay? And Evan looks up at me, and he said like 4 words since then. And he looked up and he goes, that was funny. And Andrew looked at me, and I looked at Andrew, and I go, Andrew, did he just say that was funny? And Andrew goes, uh-huh. And we started laughing. And after that, Evan just spoke.
I don't think I ever stopped talking at that point.
Never. So, and from there, then he went into the phase where he was naked, except he wore cowboy boots pretty much constantly.
And now I'm afraid to be naked, but I will never wear cowboy boots.
So that was Evan. And nothing's ever changed. And he always had an enormous vocabulary. And he said something at a party when he was about 3, and some friend of mine said, did your son just say, actually, or whatever it was? And I was like, oh yeah, why? Like, it wasn't even weird to us. So Evan's always been exactly like he is now.
I had the trajectory of becoming a mansplainer since I was young. Well, actually.
God bless. So you had like a always showing up naked phase, or was that like, how long did that last? Because I had the same thing. I'm just wondering.
I think that's pretty standard for a lot of kids.
He would just come home and take off all his clothes for the rest of the day. It was
just tired of it.
It was the boot. It was like you'd take everything off and put on your cowboy boots.
Wait, where are you guys from originally?
Colorado. I grew up in Denver.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know if like the cowboy boots was like a southern thing or where the
No,
boots.
I just thought they were fun. Like they felt kind of like regal, I think.
Oh,
Like it was like they were just an interesting footwear option. Like it was costuming, really.
oh.
But it wasn't costuming in like, oh, I'm being a cowboy. It was just like, oh, these are really cool and like flashy, if that makes sense.
It
Do
does
you
make sense.
realize, Evan, I realized yesterday that you're the only native Coloradan in our family.
Yeah. No, I knew that.
Because Andrew was born in California, Eliza was born a little further away, and Dad and I aren't natives.
Yeah.
Where are you originally from, Linda?
St. Louis.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Almost Southern like you.
Almost
Aren't you
Southern?
Southern? Yeah. Isn't St. Louis isn't the South?
No, but it kind of is. It's not quite. It's Midwest.
Yeah.
Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I always sort of planned on it. It didn't occur to me that I wouldn't have kids. And I tell people now, if you want to have kids, you absolutely have to, and you can't miss it. But if you don't want to have kids, don't do it. Like it's so hard and it's so much work, but it's so awesome. Like I can't imagine what my life would be without kids. So yeah, I guess so. It was always a plan,
What were
along with everything else that I wanted to do.
right, yeah, which you accomplished, which is awesome. That's why moms are the coolest.
Some are not so much. I don't know. They're just people who had sex and made a baby. So then from there, it's what you do with it.
Definitely. What were some of the challenges, unexpected challenges, and unexpected like good parts about having kids?
Well, they say you're only as happy as your least happy child, and it never goes away.
Mm.
So my older son called me upset about something yesterday. He's 26, and it ruined my evening. So it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a nothing thing, but anything that happens to your kids happens to you. So it just never goes away. So if there's a problem, you're having it too. And that's the worst part of being a mom, I think. And then the best part is that I raised kids that I want to hang out with, and I get to. So yeah, I mean, I raised people that I want to be friends with, and I don't mean like I'm a friend mom, but the whole goal was be around. You got to be around them a lot, so you want to have cool ones, and I feel like I accomplished it. And even the third one's turning out to be pretty cool.
Oh,
We're working on her still. She's very active on TikTok.
Yeah,
oh no.
there are some definite middle school issues. But she's just out of middle school. So yeah, she's a little active on TikTok, and there are inspirational phrases showing up on Instagram and things like that, but we're getting there.
Inspirational phrases.
Yeah. There's some I'll fill you in on those details aside from the call. They're fun. They're really fun. It is very fun to watch, like because we all were the same way, but we couldn't immortalize it in the same way. Like you can't, because she can, like, now all of her cringe, like all of the cringe that we all had when we were that age is now immortalized on the internet.
Mm.
And there's no like perspective of like, don't post that because you're going to hate this in the future. Whereas like ours was like, don't post anything that you wouldn't like, that you don't want. Like we know not to post inappropriate stuff, and she knows that too, but she doesn't, like, they can't internalize that the inspirational quotes fall into the category of inappropriate, because then you grow up like, what the fuck was this? And
Well, TikTok, you can make good money off TikTok. What if she becomes a star and sings at the Super Bowl next year?
Now, I will say that I did catch her erasing 150 Instagram posts that she did.
Yeah. She's becoming self-aware in that way, as we all do, but it's just funny that I have screenshots of a lot of them too, because I was like, when she figures this out, she's gonna erase them, and I want to keep these.
You're screenshotting your sister's mistakes to save for later?
Yeah, because they're not mistakes like that I would be, like, they're really just ammunition. It's not like, oh, this is inappropriate and we need to flag this. It's just funny to be like, someday she's gonna hate this.
It's like Andrew's first email.
Oh God.
Ice Blazer 2.
Something like that. Yeah, something dumb.
Something dumb.
But when you're 12 and you're getting an email for the first time, you're like, I want to sound cool, right?
Yes.
Ice blazer too.
Yeah. What does that mean?
You didn't even like to ice skate.
It just sounded like it's like fucking Pokemon and Beyblades and Bionicle. It's like Ice Blade. You know what I mean? It's just whatever cool shit.
Or scream Anakin.
Yeah, anything.
So Linda, you mentioned you were like, I'm not, a friend mom, which I think I get what you're saying. Like, oh, my kids, like, we're best friends. My mom was always like, I'm not your friend, I'm your mom. But it seems like you and Evan have a pretty open relationship where you talk about a lot of things. Is that how it is? Is that how it was growing up?
Everything is how it's always been. I always said that
To degrees.
kids get full rights in my house until they act like little assholes, and then they get punished. So I've always been like, your opinion, your deal, who you are is fully recognized as long as you act accordingly. Like if you can make, as long as you're being cool and you're doing all the right stuff, and then if it's not, then I lose my mind. But that's why I say, because my biggest thing was always, you don't have to like anybody, but you have to be kind to everybody.
Which got me into some bad friend situations, actually.
Yes, it did.
But because I did, and this actually still happens now, it's like hard for me to draw it can be hard for me to draw the boundary of what I'm comfortable with putting up with. And now I mean, like I said, it still happens, but now obviously as an adult, I know how to work my way out of that stuff. But when I was younger, that was like, to me, it was like, okay, well, the new kid is always going to be my friend. I'm always going to make sure that that person feels welcomed. Well, then sometimes there'd be new kids that everyone else was like, no, that's a fucking creep. Like, don't be. But then I had already taken the lead on that. And so then I was their only friend. And then once you get there, you're like, well, now I can't stop being their friend because they only have one friend. And so that's gotten me into issues before because I was always overly nice.
Yeah, but I'm not strict, but because I kind of just want everybody to do the right thing. And they mostly did. So it works out. But when they were doing poorly in school because they weren't turning their homework in, or I never had any discipline problems with anyone. So that just hasn't ever been an issue. But when there was stuff like that, well, Andrew had that girl sneaking in, but
that's
things
just
like
cool.
that was pretty funny. But
I mean, he was Ice Blazer, dude. Of course he had girls sneaking in.
Exactly. What more do you expect from the Ice Blazer?
But I didn't have any disciplinary problems. I think because I treated they knew what the standard was, and it's high, but they mostly met the standard. So that was my parenting. It worked. And my husband would have been more strict because he comes from a more strict family. But I was like, no, it's not necessary if, in fact, and they've had to pay some prices for, like, I'm like, don't get good grades so that you can make choices, and choices don't get made for you. Like with schools and stuff. And so I was furious at you when you didn't get into the IB program, Evan, because you were screwed.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would have hated the IB program.
Right, so it all worked out. And Andrew, has had to do grad school but they were both being high-level athletes, so I can't really complain that, like Andrew had a 3.5 and he needed a 3.9 to go to med school. So because he was busy being an athlete, how do you
right? What's the IB program?
So
International Baccalaureate.
Okay.
It's like it's a lot of high schools have it where it's like the same standardized international curriculum. I don't know, yeah, a lot. It's pretty common, but it was a specific high school near us that had it, and it was one of those like, you want to get in because then you can have the option. I wouldn't have gone, even if I had gotten in, but it was more of a learning moment of like, okay, we know you weren't going to go anyway, but you need to understand that this is like, it would have been important to get into this because then it sets the precedent of what we're shooting for in the future.
Yeah, I was super pissed about that. Like, that's one of
I
the
remember.
Well, because you were smart and it was dumb that you didn't do what needed to happen. You were also like in middle school and hormonally, like, you didn't even know which way was up right then. So, but that's okay. It all worked out.
What was it like being a mom to before your daughter came along to two boys? Like, did they go to their dad for most of the like boy stuff, or Evan, did you go to your mom?
Evan?
No, I mean, I think she already kind of uh, alluded to this, but I think like our dad was a little bit more prude in that way, but not in like a like he wasn't like conservative or anything like that, or he wasn't like, you know, he wasn't mean, he was great, but it was just that she was a little bit more linked in, and the at least to a certain point, because now it doesn't matter. I mean, we all have the same relationship, but when we were younger, we always felt a little bit less comfortable approaching him, just because we felt that there were certain things that would give him a sense of discomfort, I think.
Mm,
um, and I mean that not in any sort of bad way, because he's great. But also, she was like, he was always at work. You know, she was the one driving us to practice and school and stuff like that. So just by virtue of it, she was keyed into more of those emotions and stuff like that. It's not that we couldn't go to him, but I think it was like I said, to a certain point, probably sometime mid high school, it stopped mattering. But to a certain point, it was a little bit more comfortable to go to her,
right.
and he knows that.
I'm just not uptight about any of the stuff that
Yeah.
kids' parents people think of their parents as being, I can't talk to my parents about this. I'm just not. So it makes it easy. And Brandon's not really either. He just comes from a
No.
kind of family that
Yeah.
doesn't, like talk about stuff at the dinner table that's inappropriate.
Yeah. I think there was just a sense of like, if you have something that you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this or not,
Mhm.
or I don't know how this is gonna be judged. It was easier to go to mom, because we knew that there was or there was like a greater margin for error, I guess.
Right.
um Not to say that we would get in trouble with that stuff if we went to dad. It was just easier to suss out, like, if I don't know how to feel about a certain thing, she's going to be a better gauge of how we as a whole feel about this thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And now, like I said, it's not that way at all. I call them for different things, and we have different relationships, and it's completely even across the board.
Yeah.
What were the major like differences in raising boys compared to your daughter?
There aren't that many. I was so excited to have boys because I have 4 sisters. So I
Oh,
the boys are people too, because my mother raised me to kind of put men on pedestals. And the thing I realized about having boys is that it is astonishing that women didn't rule the world this whole time, that they just used their brawn and held that over everyone, because they aren't even humans until they get to be about 18. So they're like in this fog of boyness where they're not thinking about any of the things that my mother said boys think about, you
mm,
know. And
No,
so
not at
men like
all.
this, men like that.
I didn't have a coherent thought till I was 19.
It's not true, but you
But you
weren't,
know what I'm saying.
yeah, you weren't, that isn't actually true. But I actually think it was just a great learning experience for me about boys, because I actually love guys. I like hanging out with men. I'm comfortable with men. I just have always been. So it was fun. And my daughter is tomboyish. So I thought I'd have a girly girl and I'd have to learn how to like braid hair. And she's just like, get your hands off me. So I don't get to. I wanted pink and swirly, but we don't have that. She's kind of
Oh,
little tomboy. I mean, she has her moments when she goes
she's
girly and then she puts on a dress. She's got this cute, she's
I,
adorable, but
I also think a lot of that lends itself not just to her being a tomboy, but the environment that she's growing up in socially is more comfortable with, like, it doesn't have to be I'm going to use the word binary, but I don't mean the gender binary, but I mean literally like boys do this and girls do this. Like, it's just a
so
little bit
different.
more meshed.
And the way girls dress and everything now is much more asexual or whatever. It's not. And then, but when she gets in a mood and she puts on a half top and some kind of cute, I'm like, whoa, dude. So
that's awesome. So what's the coolest thing you find about each other, you and Evan?
You got to go first. Evan.
I will go first. I respond to a work email really quickly because
Yeah.
I will be back in 1 second. Okay.
Yeah, no
I
worries.
mean, like, but go ahead and go first.
Um, Evan is my male clone. It's almost as though the apple dropped right off the tree next to me. And we are so very much alike. He's got stuff about his dad, but we're so very much alike that we don't have to explain a lot of comments that we make to each other ever. Like there's no explanation needed for half the things we say to each other. We just get it.
Mm.
That Evan would agree that that's the case. I'm that way with Andrew too, but Andrew, I like each of my kids the best for different reasons, all three of them. And so Evan and I just have, I can think about something and Evan will call me and say, and answer that question. We have that same thing going on. We always have. So it happened the other day where I said something about something and Evan called and answered it. Or he like texted me and answered the question. I can't remember what it was. So I'm not going to come up with a good example, but I was like talking about something in politics and I'm like, Trump's an asshole. And Evan would write back, Trump's asshole. Da, da, da. No, I mean, it wasn't that, but.
Countless hacks in this family.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Evan, with your work thing.
Yeah, sort of. It's okay. Yeah, no, I think I actually was, I didn't really read those questions, but I sort of skimmed over them. I thought it'd be more fun to not have things, planned out in that way. But that was one of the things I was going to mention was that we have a communication style that's a little bit more, I don't know, inference, but like we can understand each other in the sort of subtext, whereas my brother and dad need a little bit more over, like he's, as a lawyer too, he's so used to very clear legal language that there is no reading between the lines because there is no between the lines. You know what I mean? And not to say that he can't pick up on that stuff as a person, he definitely can, but we have a rapport that is like, I know exactly what she's saying all the time. And we can operate in the gray with each other a little bit better. And I think that lends itself to both being very similar and also working, in a, I guess, literary adjacent or literary, realm all the time. I think one of the interesting examples, and it's a little bit inappropriate, but we had a group chat one time where someone posed, I think it was Mom, I think you posed the question, side boob or under boob?
Yeah.
And there was like from my brother and my dad's side, just like a barrage of questions and like, well, context and this and this, and I was just like, under boob. And we were both like, yep. And we didn't need any other context there. Like it was just, and it was like, they were like, what do you mean? And we're just like, side boob or under boob? Like, what's your answer? Just answer the fucking question. Like, what do you need from this? And it's like, well, there's no context. Just tell us conceptually. And we were able to, like, that's a pretty, uncomplicated example, but we are able to communicate in that way a little bit more concisely, concisely and wordlessly.
And the other day I said, I just found it in the text. I was like, I was sitting in the car. I said to someone, Rudy has COVID. And Evan texted me that second, Rudy has COVID, which is, I know and I'm like, did you just hear me say that? Or did I text you?
To be fair, that the headline popped into our screens at the exact same time,
Right.
But the difference was, where does the output of this information go immediately?
Yeah.
Right. Do you see, one of the things I love about you, Evan, is you're so freaking funny, and it's because you just like say things that, I feel like some people would hold back. And I think that, only speaking to you for 25 minutes, Linda, I feel like you guys have a similar sense of humor, which is amazing. Do you, being a writer, help Evan edit his jokes?
No, but
she'll give me feedback in the form of like, it's not really like logistical edits. Like, it's not like, oh, this doesn't work because of this. It's more just like the feedback is very, like I said, concise but sometimes wordless. Like she'll just like, I can tell when I say something by her reaction that either it wasn't funny, it didn't make sense, it didn't, like, I can just read that a little bit. But it's not, you like, I wouldn't really, I don't think I would go to her saying, does this make sense?
Well, and it doesn't always matter, because when you have like, do you like this joke? I can't tell until I hear you say it, or I hear the context around it. So
Right.
I've often thought something wasn't very funny, like a concept, or like, I'm like, I wonder how he's going to make that work. And then I just trust, and then I hear you do it on stage or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, that totally works. Or
Yeah.
that, I'll tell you, like the other day you did a joke and I was like, it doesn't quite line up yet. And you'll tell me the same things too when I come up with stuff.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, I think that also just lends itself to why we can't workshop in that way, because like literary writing is so different because it's meant to be on the page.
Right.
Whereas stand-up jokes, obviously, like I will, like she said, I'll sometimes read it to her and she's like, I don't know what that means, but then say it on stage and it's like, oh, duh, nailed it.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of a different process.
Right. So you guys obviously seem to have, like we talked about, a pretty open relationship. Evan, is there something that you've done as a child or lately, whatever, that you haven't told your mom, but you feel like she'd be ready to hear now?
Cocaine, first off, would be, I'm just kidding.
She's like,
wait till I tell you mine.
No, I know. Oh, okay. No, I think generally anything that, I mean, for the most part, like that I haven't told her, it's because I haven't told anyone. Like, it's my secret. It's my feel. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty non-secretive in general. And obviously there's things that like have happened that I'm like, well, this isn't relevant information for them. But there's nothing that comes to mind that's so like, ooh, I hid this from my parents. You know what I mean? Like it's more just like, if there's really any serious secret, it's all mine and it's no one's. But even then, nothing really comes to mind with that.
What is yours, Linda?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm not sure you can. I have never told you this, and my sisters have made fun of me about this for years.
I'm so excited to text Andrew about it.
And so when the kids were little, they used to be like, "You've never done drugs, Mom. You've never done drugs, Mom." And I'd be like, "Oh no." And I'm not druggy. Like, I don't drink.
We're not a drug family at all.
I'm just like, I'd like to drink, but it just like, it doesn't work for me. I'm sick for, like, if I have 3 cocktails, I'm sick for 3 days and it's just not worth it to me. I'm not addictive and I'm just not that person. But this is the most amazing story and I can't believe I'm telling you. You may have to edit this out. So when I was like 19, I had this boyfriend and he was not druggy either. And I was in college and he lived in Manhattan Beach. And I went to visit him for the weekend. So he was like my first really serious boyfriend. But like, I have to preface this by saying, I'm really not, like I've said this, I've smoked pot and stuff, but I just wasn't, I'd try stuff, but not addictive. So I had come down from college. I spent the night at his place. I fell asleep for a nap and I woke up and he wasn't around. And he's like, come over to this guy, whatever's house. We're smoking cocaine.
You smoked crack?
I didn't know what it was. Like, I'd never heard of such a thing. I didn't know such a thing. So I go over there, I go upstairs and they're all these people, they're like preparing this.
Wait, was it freebasing cocaine or was it smoking crack? Because those are different, not very different, but they're different.
They were freebasing. So
okay. I feel a little better about that.
So I told my sisters about it, and we did it and we sat there all night and I don't know how many hits I took or whatever, but I was like, God, I just want to be myself again. I hate this. I just feel jittery and awful. And then it was over. So like, never again. He didn't do it again. It was just a thing that happened that, and this is in the early 80s, right? And so I didn't even know what it was. And so I told my sisters and they called me a crack whore for like 10 years.
That's so
like,
funny.
Crack whore.
But it's not crack, but it's so close.
Do not tell the kids. And they were like singing, white line, go free base. They were singing, all 4 of my sisters teased me mercilessly And I'm like, fine, but do not tell the boys.
That's
Do
so
not
funny.
tell
I'm
the
so
boys.
glad
I'm
I
not
know
sure
this.
Brendan knows. It's like not a secret. But
No, it's also not like, I mean, it's not that big of a deal because it kind of makes sense. And it's like, if it's anything like cocaine, it's dumb.
yeah, but like, you smoke crack. My sisters are like,
It's so funny.
you're a crack whore.
That is so funny.
I love that
And
you just like woke up and you were like, yeah, I'll do that.
yeah, I'll go smoke crack.
I didn't know what it was. Like I'd never heard of such a thing. And he's like, come here, you got to try this. And I was like, okay. Like it was just it was sort of innocent, if you will. But it's
Yeah.
just, I don't care about that. The funny part was my sister's completely teasing me. We're going to tell Andrew and Evan
Well,
about this.
it's also funny if you know, we can't introduce them as characters, obviously, but if you know her sisters too, it's a better visual. Yeah,
That's what
pretty funny.
I have a couple
I
other.
am telling Andrew.
Yeah.
But you're saying crack instead of cocaine.
Oh, for sure. 1,000,000%.
So it won't matter. I think
He'll know. He'll know. He also won't care. He'll have the same reaction.
yeah.
He's so not. None of us. We don't smoke weed at all.
None of us do anything. And we live in Colorado and I could care less.
So in what ways did your mom influence the way you were a mother, Linda?
Mhm. You don't
There's a
have
good.
long enough, Mama says for that. My mom was pretty on the one hand, my mom was.
Wait, really quick. I'm gonna step away just for 2 seconds while you answer this question because this is all your camp.
Yeah. My mom is an artist, and she was as a teenager, she was pretty cool and open, and my friends all loved her, and she was pretty awesome in that way. So I got the relaxed part from her.
So you had 3 sisters, right?
Well, I have 4 sisters.
Oh,
So I have two full sisters and 2 half sisters. My mother had a baby my senior year of high school and my sophomore year of college. So I have sisters that are like 18 and 20 years younger than me, but they're grown and they're super cool. But it was very awkward to be in college and be pushing your sister around and having people think that you had a baby and left. So because she looked like me. So she doesn't now, but yeah.
So you're all very close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everyone's really close. So, I mean, in retrospect, my mom did a lot that influenced how I raised my kids in a good way.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, no mom is perfect, right? Like, I feel like, and Evan, you can probably attest to this too, and Linda, with your own mom, it's weird when you get to a certain age and you're like, oh shit, my mom was just a human?
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I also think, and I didn't hear all the conversation of what you guys just talked about, but I think what's interesting to me, and I love my grandparents a lot. They're incredible grandparents. But it sounds like on both my mom and my dad's side, there were negatives about negatives to an extreme about their parenting styles that influenced okay, well, we still love them. This doesn't change anything, but here's what we're not going to do.
Yeah.
And this is not a testament to them being bad people, but I know that specifically both I can pick up on both sets of parents, grandparents, certain times in their life where it was like, this was not a great time and it was deeply influential on my parenting, but it's not a testament to who I am as a person, but it was more of a testament to the situation. And then the way I always understood it was that both of my parents took that feedback essentially and was like, great, it's not going to be the same because we don't have those situations, but we're going to make sure that we're not responding to things in that way. I'm trying to be as vague as possible just because it is, family information, but I think it's important to note.
Definitely. I think you're making a good point. Yeah.
I think you guys are all been raised in a different time period when our parents were raising kids and what affected them, and when they got married really early in those days, and all the sociological and economic and historical factors that affected their parenting affect ours in a different way. So I don't hold any, like for instance, we used to all run around and our parents never watched us. You just left and you came home at dark, and everyone did, and all kinds of weird stuff went down. That was part of being a kid. Whereas now when we had our kids, we're like, not going to let that happen. And it wasn't that our parents were bad. It was just the way things were accepted and done in that time. So
yeah. And I think that like I said lends itself to the style of relationship that each set of grandparents had. Just
right.
because your spousal relationship norms were different. And again, being vague, but nothing bad, nothing like tremendously bad, just different than
Good people doing their best and
yeah, absolutely.
made and different decisions made the next generation down. And
Definitely.
you'll screw up your kids in whatever special ways you do it too. Just that's how it goes.
Evan, do you want kids?
Um, I don't. I sure right now, sure. You know what I mean? I mean that only in that I haven't really uh, considered it as like it's not in my scope. I would love to have kids, probably. I really don't have an answer for that. I'm not against having kids, but it's something that I really can't conceptualize in this moment. And
Sure.
I mean like this moment, not like this moment, but um, especially with like I know what I want in the I know what my 5 to 10 year plan is or whatever, and right now that doesn't factor in. But I know that that can easily change, and I'm not against it. It's not like I'm firmly like I don't want to be a dad. Just I don't know.
So all these kids you tell me you have are not real?
Oh, they're real. I'm just not fathering them.
Just not ready to be a dad.
Yeah, I just haven't. I mean, there's definitely a lot of me's running around. I have a lot of blocked phone numbers in my phone. Okay, but I'm just not ready to accept them.
I think that's admirable. Like you are making your way, don't let kids tell
Yeah,
you what you
it's
have
not
to do.
dictating anything. I also think
Little motherly
in,
advice: don't do your DNA test in any time in the future on
I
20.
will not be. I will not be. I absolutely will not be. And if anyone ever gives me one as like a gift, well, their results will come back inconclusive. It's just how it's going to go. I think also, and this is kind of a cliched response right now, but it is sort of important to me, is that we know what our sort of socio-political climate looks like right now and what our economic climate looks like right now. And I cannot currently, and not saying that it won't turn around, fathom at least having a kid. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. And so if I were to have kids, if things stayed where they were, I would probably adopt, because then it's like, I mean, there's going to be plenty of kids who need to be shepherded through the end times. And if that, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing a kid into the world. But that's, again, I'm 24. I can't answer that.
Yeah. So, Linda, if you could give any piece of advice for whether it be mothers or children, what would be your like staple mama says advice?
I think I already gave it, which is you don't have to like anyone, but you have to be kind to everyone. But that's not true because there are some people I'm now learning aren't worthy of being kind to. In this last year or last few political years, I've learned that there are some people I really don't think you don't have to be mean to them, but you don't have to pay any attention to them. I think as I said, you raise kids to be people you want to be around. And that was my whole plan, and that's what I did. And if I met Evan or Andrew or Liza at an event, I would like them and want to hang out with them. And I feel like that's my greatest accomplishment, actually, at all, because being a mom, being a parent is easy in that, like, you can have sex and make a baby, or adopt a kid. That part's easy. The hard part is creating, helping to shepherd, as Evan said, or create a person that you like seeing on the planet. And so being a parent is a really important job, and it's one that you don't think about that way because most people do it, but it's hugely, hugely important, because who you raise is who ends up out there in the world doing what they do.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's about the best I can give you. And other than that, duck. Hard work.
So we are nearing the end of our time together, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you, Linda. You are hilarious and amazing, and now I know why Evan is so cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
It's,
my final, what'd you say?
it's a fun podcast. When I heard he wanted to do it, I was like, this sounds like a lot of fun. And I hope she's prepared for us, because we didn't even give you a half. We could have made this really something even more dramatic than it's been.
Yeah, but I'm on my work computer, so I can.
Well, my final question is, since this is stamped in time and you guys will have this forever, what's the thing that you guys would like each other to know forever?
That you should forgive my debt.
And you should forgive mine.
Yeah. Without
don't make me eat cat food at the nursing home. Take care of me when I get, you don't have to change the Depends or whatever. I wouldn't expect that, but hire someone nice to do it.
Cool.
I've learned that. Yeah.
We're making Liza do it. We're making Liza do
I'm not gonna do it either. No, it's a huge question, and
it. I don't know.
I think the truth is, I think we have let each other know already all those things.
Yeah.
Like it's weird that you should say this, because I lost a really good friend a year ago today, and
Is that today?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was like that, in that, I said to her daughter, before I was with her about a month before she died, and I'm going to actually be texting her daughter in a little while here, but I'm like, you didn't get to keep your mom for very long. Like, it's just really unfair that you're not going to get to keep her for very long, but you got something that most people don't get, like you got a mom like nobody gets. And so I have, and when I talked to that friend, she really told her kid, she was able to tell her kid everything she wanted her to know, and was only sorry that she wasn't there for more. That was her big regret, is like, there's nothing I have left on the table. I'm just sad that that the table doesn't have more food on it, And so I think that we do that with each other every day, and it's been a real blessing,
Yeah.
as a kid. And I'm really proud of Evan, because and
Which is insane to me, because I owe her so much money.
You do. His father and I both think the same thing, which is that his going for it, and you too. I mean, you're doing that same thing.
And Amber's way funnier than I am, by the way.
Who is?
Amber.
Yeah, well, I think she said Andrew, and I was like, yeah, sometimes. I'm rambling here, but
No, you're good.
you only have one life. Although my husband says that I'm working my way backwards through my many lives. Like I'm regressing as I go, as opposed to progressing. But you got to go for things that are interesting to you. And it doesn't actually matter if you succeed, although we will all cry about it if we don't. But that you do it is really important. And so people are like, is it embarrassing, or is it bother you that your son's gone into comedy? I'm like, what are you talking
I give
about?
a fuck.
No, I'm like, no, we're super proud of him. Like, we love, you got to earn a living and pay your bills too, but
I'm doing that now.
figure it out and do it. This is the only time you can go for it. So I'm super proud of him. So if I die tomorrow, I'm super proud of you.
Oh, thanks.
Now, what are you going to say to me?
Oh, I got nothing. I got nothing. I got no, I don't know. I especially, in the sake of not being too earnest, because earnesty in this family is cringe to some degree.
Nice word.
Earnest. Yeah. I'm still figuring out what it means, but I think I used it well. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have any specific need to knows. I mean, you did a pretty good job raising me.
Thank you.
I think, I don't know. I mean, what do you want me to say? You know what I mean? It's not, look at the house that you're sitting in. I had a good come up. There's never been any pressure on me to do anything. And that's cool. I think, and I appreciate that.
That's not true. There's actually been a lot of pressure on you
to do something.
To do something,
but not to do anything.
No, not to do anything, but to do something.
Yeah, but in a supportive way is what I mean. Is as long as I think it was always nice feeling the standard was, as long as you have conviction about it, we'll back you up on it, which
Yeah.
I think is cool. Because I have a lot of specifically friends in the arts who weren't raised that way. And we can go through all the tropes of, does that make you more funny or less funny, or what does this mean about your comedy? But I don't think it really matters, because the fact of the matter is that it's a cool upbringing to feel supported in that way.